Hello and welcome to the City of Cedar Falls Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on this 27th day of January 2021. This is a virtual meeting that is being held due to the advisement due to COVID-19 pandemic that we're currently experiencing. Participation, before we start the meeting, anyone that's having any trouble can call in on the phone number that is on the agenda online. And with that, we will call the meeting to order and have a roll call attendance vote. Karen?
Okay, good evening. Hartley?
Here.
Holst?
Here.
Larson?
That's fine.
See, Mr. Larson is on the line. Can you hear us, Ms.? Okay. Lynch?
Here.
Prideaux?
Here.
Saul?
Here.
Schrod?
Here.
Sears?
Here.
All right, thank you, Karen. I would entertain comments or motion to receive and approve the minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we'll enter the public comments section of the meeting, and this is for items that are not on our agenda. And if you have questions or would you like to speak, just raise your hand in the panel. I think we have a few attendees. And again, this is for items not on the agenda. Seeing none, we will move back to our, we'll close public comments and bring it back to our agenda. Today we're going to be, we have one item on the agenda. We're going to have a staff introduction of that item. And I'm going to bring that up here. Karen, is Chris going to be introducing our first item for the College Hill Neighborhood Overlay Review?
Yes, he is.
Yep. So let me share my screen. Okay.
Looks like we're seeing it okay, Chris.
Okay, cool. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so let's get into it. So this request is regarding a remodel of an existing duplex on the southwest corner of 28th and Walnut. This is in an R2 residence district within the College Hill neighborhood overlay. The proposal is to add bedrooms and other appropriate updates with the intent to double the rental occupancy of the property. Normally this would include a proposal to add more parking, but the applicant already constructed with a permit a second driveway. This technically should have been brought before the commission for review and approval, but we'll just say for practical purposes, we'll include that driveway in this review. Currently, each unit has 2 bedrooms and 760 square feet of finished floor space. The proposed remodel would bring the number of bedrooms to 4 per unit, which brings the total number of bedrooms to 8, and 1,520 square feet of finished floor space per unit. The overlay defines the adding of bedrooms to a duplex as a substantial improvement, which in turn requires review and approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council. Before we get into it, into like review and evaluation, it's important to take into account the intent and purpose of the overlay. The College Hill Neighborhood Overlay District was established for the preservation of neighborhood character and the stabilization of its neighborhoods after a long history of changes and updates to properties that typically increased occupancies and detracted from the original intent of those properties and neighborhoods. This trend in the establishment of the overlay called for more scrutiny when reviewing changes that may affect the character of the neighborhood. So the next few slides will consider the evaluation criteria, which include change in density, minimum on-site parking requirements, open space and landscaping requirements, and other provisions as applicable in the code. First, we'll talk about density. The properties in the surrounding neighborhood are predominantly rental properties. However, several of the properties within view of this one are owner occupied. While it is perfectly appropriate for this property to be a rental, doubling the occupancy may not be appropriate given the increased traffic activity and changes in neighborhood character that would result. The disposition of the technical review committee was that the original design and carrying capacity of the property was not intended to serve 8 persons aged 18 years or older. That said, this review is not to evaluate the appropriateness of the interior, but to consider the exterior effects, since preserving neighborhood character is the purpose of this review. So these are some of the factors that may detract from neighborhood character: the increased number of cars associated with the property, associated traffic increasing from those cars and visitors, increased parking accommodations that takes up more of the green space and outdoor living space, and the wear and tear of higher occupancy on a modest sized property such as this one. So, and then as far as minimum on-site parking requirements, the overlay requires 1 parking space per bedroom for a duplex, and the code allows tandem parking for duplexes, which count toward this requirement. Now, tandem means one car behind another. So you can see in this illustration how that would work with 4 cars in each driveway, and that's kind of the idea behind that language in the code. Now, that being said, it's important to consider that the practical logistics for 8 roommates may not result in this formation of parking. It would be logical to anticipate that some cars will park on the street. So moving on. As far as open space and landscaping requirements, there is a maximum width of 18 feet for driveways that's outlined in the overlay. And the front and side yards are supposed to be landscaped with grass, shrubbery, and trees, much like the other properties that are in the neighborhood. You'll notice to the right that the driveway that was put in is 44 feet long and 20 feet wide. So it doesn't quite meet that 18-foot requirement. It's this is kind of something that we're we don't intend on making them change that width. Let's just put it that way. Now, what had happened in this construction project was the removal of the landscaping that was there, and also a patio that was on that side of the house. And in order to maintain the character of the neighborhood, we recommend that the landscaping be replaced. There were some other factors or criteria, I should say, that were not applicable in this case, that were outlined in the staff report. In accordance with, I should say, to preserve the neighborhood character and maintain consistency with the original carrying capacity of this dwelling as appropriate to its context, staff recommends that the request to add bedrooms to the building be denied. If approved, though, staff recommends that approval be subject to some of the conditions of maintenance that were listed in the staff report, such as cleaning the face of gutters, touching up paint as needed at the windows, repairing and replacing rear siding, which is intended based on the letter from the applicant, and then stairs at the rear door be replaced. We also recommend that the Planning and Zoning Commission retroactively approve the second driveway, subject to the condition that landscape be replaced to restore what was removed, including a minimum of 2 overstory trees, front yard plantings, and shrubs to screen the parking from the abutting property. The design and placement of plants should screen the paved vehicular areas from view of the neighbors and help soften the view of the new paved area of the street from the street. Are there any questions?
Any question of the report before we go to the applicant?
So what is the intent for this? Normally, when we get a new item, we review it one meeting and then act on it the next meeting. What is the intent with this?
I think we would leave it up to the commission. If you have more questions that you want answered, or if you feel like you have enough information to make a decision, you should feel free to make a decision tonight.
Would the landscaping portion be a separate motion, or would you want that all in one motion?
We can do this in 2 different motions.
Okay.
So I guess I would the one thing I would say is, has there been any contact with the surrounding homeowners or property owners?
There has not.
So my feeling is something like this, when we're approving a change and the neighbors may or may not be aware of it, I wouldn't think we would want to do that in the typical kind of two meeting process in order to give people a chance to be aware that this proposal is out there, because sometimes we rush right through and then people go, oh, hey, what happened later on?
When was the driveway done?
I understand it was done in October.
Have there been any official complaints about the driveway or parking since?
No, there has not.
Well, if we're talking about 2 separate matters here, I think that makes sense. If we're talking about the driveway and the landscaping, one question I have is the driveway sounds like it is just barely out of compliance. By how much? What are we talking about? What is the technical issue with the driveway?
By 2 feet, it's the width. The width of the driveway is out of compliance.
So
Now that being said, we're actually recommending approval of the driveway, subject to that landscaping condition.
And that doesn't set any kind of a precedent that concerns anyone?
So normally this would have had to go through the commission under the ssame criteria of preserving the neighborhood character. unfortunately, we missed that when we get a lot of paving requests in, and I think at the time we didn't realize it was something that needed to be reviewed through the College Hill overlay. But after careful review, it does appear that additional paving, I think the initial intent of the College Hill overlay was to review these things more carefully because there were issues of neighborhood stabilization. And that was the goal of the adoption of the ordinance, is to review any substantial changes to the properties with the eye toward making sure that we're keeping an eye on maintaining the initial carrying capacity of the property, making sure that it remains in character, that it still maintains that residential character of the neighborhood. So I think, and that is the purview of the commission tonight. It's not to review the technical aspects of the driveway, but to determine what's necessary to maintain the residential character of this neighborhood.
So to clarify, the driveway, as I understand, that ship has kind of sailed, but since we've got this new matter in front of us, we're kind of retroactively bringing the driveway into it and then allowing some leniency since it did get overlooked. Am I thinking about that right?
Right. So
Correct.
what was damaged in the original, paving of the driveway was the removal of the mature trees and landscaping and the outdoor space for the tenants. So
Was there permits pulled to do the driveway?
yes, there were
Yes.
permits pulled to do the driveway.
Okay.
So we're letting the driveway go because that's not directly part of this matter, and we're just asking that the trees be restored or the landscaping be restored since that piece would have been overlooked previously.
So that is the recommendation of the staff. And of course, the commission has the ability to decide otherwise. It's up to you to decide what's appropriate in this particular case.
Any other clarifying questions for staff before we have the applicant, and then we can bring it back for discussion? Okay, with that, let's bring it. Is there anyone from the applicant that would like to speak? If so, raise your hand in the online Zoom session. Looks like we have Wes. I'm having trouble recognizing that, Karen.
Chris, can you stop sharing your screen for a moment?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I have control, Karen.
So, Julie, are you still there? Let's see.
I'm here. I'm good.
Can you give Brad ability to share? And to designate the speakers?
There we go.
All right, now can you hear me?
Yes, Wes, we have you now. Thank you.
So yeah, as far as the neighborhood, I looked at up the each houses, and so like in my block, there's one homeowner occupied single family home out of 16. And if you're looking at the entire neighborhood, as far as the Walnut and 28th Street south of University Avenue, 41 of the 49 houses are already rentals, plus 8 of those 49 that are single family homeowners. 2 of those homeowners actually own rentals on those streets. And when I paved that parking lot in October, I just purchased it from a guy that lived down the street. Actually, he sold me one of his, and he said that the city was sending him a lot of papers about paving his gravel approach on the existing driveway. And he was going to pave it. And I said, I'll just pave it when I buy it. So once I got it, I paved the gravel approach, replaced that and made it concrete. And then I also added the other driveway, which I did take out bushes to do. But those 2 trees that keep getting mentioned, I did not take down. Those were already taken down by the previous owner. And so they were just unsightly stumps in the middle of the yard, quite big ones. And so, yeah, those were already gone before I owned it. As far as, yeah, the maintenance items, they said clean gutter faces, which I'll do that. Replace windows. When I first applied for this, I was told to go take a building permit first. So I went and I did that. And on that, you'll see that I have replaced windows. And the siding that wants replaced as a maintenance item, I have that on there. And the garage door in the back, there's a door back there with no steps on it, like they said. But I do have it in the drawing. But I think I plan on eradicating that door, just because with having a 3-foot pad at the top of steps and then also the steps down, there's only 7 foot on the back of the house between the other property line. And so I think it'd just be like steps onto the neighbor's property. So I was thinking of just when I reside and do all the windows, basically the whole exterior, I'll just take away that one door out the back. Yeah, that's basically, I have a few other points, but they were to things that got taken off the write-up, the one that we got given versus this one that I just read. Yeah, didn't you have any questions about any of that?
Anyone have clarifying questions for Wes while we have him online? All right, hearing none.
Do you know, Wes, do you know where those ash trees that were taken out?
I don't know. No, I don't know what they were. He just said he had just gotten taken down, and that's all I know.
Any other questions for Wes? All right, thank you, Wes. We're gonna mute you. And we'll bring it, anyone else from the public that would like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission.
I guess I would go back to my point. Kind of a decision where I think rather than make a final decision tonight, I would recommend it as a discussion item. And I'd like to see that the surrounding property owners are at least somehow notified that this is going on, so they have a chance to make any comment if they want to, because I think other times we've gotten into trouble where we ran something through one shot and then people found out about it after the fact and then had different thoughts. And I would hate to go ahead and make a decision tonight, whatever it is, and then only to find out, that people didn't get a chance to comment on this. So,
Are you suggesting a motion to defer this to the next meeting?
Yeah, I would make that as a motion.
Second on that.
We have a motion and a second.
But are you going to contact the property owners, surrounding property owners before the next meeting?
Yes, we should be sending out notice on this item.
Okay.
Chris, did we send out notice on this item?
We did not.
What would the normal practice be?
The normal
it was
practice,
not.
we should have sent out notice on this.
And we have not?
It sounds like we have not.
Okay.
Chris, we have not?
We have
Then
not.
are you, okay.
I would agree if we have not sent notice out and that's like to standard protocol, then I would agree with Marty. If it's not needed in this case, then I don't think we should be making up protocols, colored by one project to the next. So if that is the case and there should have been notices out, I would agree with deferring the item.
I agree.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's take a roll call vote. Karen?
Oh, sorry. Are there any items that the commission would like us to review more carefully the next time around, just for clarification or anything?
I have a question about, I understand Wes's breakdown of the rental properties, and I don't think that's what's at issue, but the character of the density is the primary issue. And so I'm curious what some of the other surrounding homes, what the density of those homes are.
Sure. We can provide that information.
So I did look into it in the immediate vicinity, next door neighbors. They're approved for four individuals on those lots.
Is that 4 bedrooms or 4 individuals?
Four persons 18 years or older.
Okay, 4 persons. Okay.
But we can provide a more, probably a map, and we can kind of show a little more definitively the surrounding properties.
Yep.
So in terms of protocol, are we, if we vote to defer right now, can continue discussion for next week, or should we do that before we have the vote? I'm not sure what is proper.
So typically you take a motion and then you discuss the motion. So you can have discussion at this point, but I just wanted to make sure we were giving you all the information you needed for next week, next time.
Well, I mean, I think it's worth discussing this week, kind of so the owner and, knows maybe kind of what the temperature of the commission is ahead of time. That's, I think, part of the usefulness to them too.
Well, Marty, if we're checking temperature here, I'll just say that the idea of not being able to finish a basement, I think, is a major deprivation of ownership rights. If the building were slab on grade and we were talking about an addition or a major change to the footprint, that'd be a different situation. But a basement that's existing could have been finished at any point in the past, or it could have been done by some previous owner without a permit. And to be honest, I feel like to an extent the measure as to whether it's significant improvement or not is something I would question. But the intent of the overlay is obviously to get this before us. But if we're trying to stand in the way of an owner improving their property, I think that sets a dangerous precedent. If you think about this, if it were a single family home and it were a young family that had just bought the property and they want to finish the basement off, what are we going to say no to them too? I just don't think with something that is pretty low density to begin with that satisfies the parking requirements, I just don't think this is the hill that's worth dying on if we want to change the landscape of some of this stuff.
I'm in agreement with you, Kyle. And as far as street parking, we're putting cars on the streets all over Collegeville area. So the street parking thing doesn't bother me at all.
Karen, is it accurate to say that this is about adding density though, right?
Yeah, the issue is about adding occupancy to the existing building and density, right?
And I think that's where my question about the density of the surrounding homes is really important to know and understand, because if an 8-person or 8 people right in the duplex, you have 4 people on each side, is that correct?
Right.
So if that's in line with the other properties, I don't see an issue. But if we're talking most of the houses are 2, then it is. And then I would think about, you have 4 unrelated individuals, and then consider the amount of visitors that each of those people might have. That does significantly increase the traffic. So that would just be really helpful information for me to be able to make a decision on this.
I agree with Leslie. I think it's more a question of density. I agree with Kyle. I think the person should have the ability to remodel the basement, but I do believe the density is more of an issue than anything else that's on the table right now. So that would be my concern, is what is the density of the neighborhood in all the surrounding properties?
Yeah, I have a similar question with the density. If we approve this house to have the basement converted to, additional bedrooms, could every house on the block then start doing that, and we start reviewing density on every house in the neighborhood? So I guess I'm curious on what precedent this would set too.
Good questions. I think we have the questions on the table. Are there any others? All right, so we have a motion to defer this to the next meeting at this time, and a second. I would entertain a roll call vote, Karen.
Okay. Hartley,
Aye.
Holst,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Leeper,
Aye.
Lynch,
Aye.
Prideaux,
Aye.
Saul,
Aye.
Schrod,
Aye.
Sears.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries.
All right.
I don't remember the motion and the second. I'm sorry. Who made the motion
I
originally?
made the motion.
Okay.
Who made the second?
Amanda Lynch.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right, that concludes our business. Any commission updates, Karen?
I don't have anything for you tonight.
All right, well, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And second, I think by Kyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, stay safe, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Aye.